report that made it clear in black and white. This report hasn't been authored by the Yogi Adityanath government or by the BJP. It has in fact not been authored by any member of the so-called pro-BJP, pro-RSS right-wing ecosystem. It's in fact a report from a century ago, a report from the year 1924, and its author was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Sambhal has been in the national conversation following the communal riots during the court-ordered survey of the Shahi Jama Masjid. Since then, the focus has been on Sambhal's history, its heritage, the scars of its past, and only yesterday the Yogi Adityanath government sought a report on the 1978 Sambhal riots from the state administration. Today we've accessed this letter and a report by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru from September 1924. He was sent to the riot-hit Sambhal by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi to find out what triggered the communal riots of 1924. What did Pandit say in his report to the father of the nation? The 13-page report, after he spoke to members of both communities, is very clear. Let's break it down graphically for our viewers. And this is observation 1. Prima facie, Hindus are aggrieved, is what he says in his 13-page report. Observation 2 is that 2 of their temples have been desecrated. Observation 3, the number of Hindus have been beaten badly over there. 4th observation is that no Mohammedan sustained any marked injury. 5th observation is that desecrated temple is called Surajkut temple. Observation 6, a great deal of temple property is present in Sambhal. The 7th observation is that Muslims have always been top dogs in Sambhal. Observation 8, it's clear that Hindus didn't prepare to attack. The 9th observation is that the initiative in this respect was by Mohammedans. And the 10th observation is a suggestion that Hindus desecrated their temples is absurd. So that's as far as these observations are concerned, which have in fact been very clearly written. It's a 1924 report that was submitted by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and of course he also talks about mediating and decline, saying that which community will I represent. But the big question is this: has anything changed between Sambhal of 1924 and the Sambhal of 2024? The town was Muslim majority back then as it is now. The fissures between majority and minority community are widening over Sambhal's ancient legacy, and most importantly, the Shahi Jama Masjid was a bone of contention a century ago as it is now. Now, while there's a sense of denial in the entire India bloc about Sambhal ka such, in his report even Pandit Nehru clearly mentions that there was a mandir in Sambhal which was subsequently converted to a mosque. He also states that Sambhal found mention in the Puranas. It was full of tirths and sacred wells. Pandit Nehru also mentioned that it's believed that the next avatar will come from Sambhal, an assertion that's being made by many even today. However, what about the Congress party and its allies in the India bloc? Can they reject these assertions made by Pandit Nehru in his report about Sambhal's history, about what Hindus in Sambhal have faced historically? And can they come out in the open and call Pandit Nehru's report wrong and unsubstantiated? Listening to these reactions of the opposition party to the facts mentioned in Nehru's 1924 letter.
Leaders were to reconcile conflicts, to create peace and harmony among themselves or among the communities. But these days, particularly BJP, is to add fuel to the fire. This is what is happening. BJP is not only adding fuel to the fire, rather they are trying to provoke one community.
बीजेपी इतिहास खोदने में जुट गई है। मुझे लगता है भाजपा के पास उत्तर प्रदेश की जनता के लिए कोई काम नहीं है। दंगों की रिपोर्ट खोली जाएंगी, दंगों की पुनः जांच कराई जाएगी, ये सारी चीजें मुझे नहीं लगता है कि एक बेहतर स्टेट को सही मार्ग पे ले जाने का रास्ता हो सकता है। कि स्वामी विवेकानंद जी ने भी कहा है कि जो आज 4 सबसे बड़े तीर्थ स्थल हैं हिंदू परंपरा के, वो कभी बौद्ध मठ हुआ करते थे। तो क्या वो चारों जो आपके स्थल हैं उनको आप खुदवा के बौद्ध मठ में परिवर्तित करेंगे क्या?
The BJP is using Pandit Nehru's 1924 report to point at Congress party's hypocrisy. They're accusing the Congress party of playing appeasement politics to secure their vote bank.
जवाहरलाल नेहरू का 1924 का लेटर हिंदुस्तान के अंदर कांग्रेस पार्टी समाजवादी पार्टी के तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति को एक्सपोज करता है. इट एक्सपोजेस द अपीजमेंट पॉलिटिक्स दैट द समाजवादी पार्टी इन द कांग्रेस पार्टी प्रैक्टिस फॉर 70 years in Uttar Pradesh. It makes it clear that the aggrieved party in Sambhal is the Hindus. The truth of Sambhal is that the Sanatanis have equal right in Sambhal as any other community. This is why the Hanuman Mandir, which was locked for 40 years, was opened by the BJP government under Yogi Adityanath.
Let's take this across to our guest. Joining us with us is Sharad Trivedi of the BJP. In fact, we also have Sushil Pandit, activist. Tariq Khan of the Samajwadi Party is joining us. Lokesh Jindal is a political analyst. But I'm going to come to you first. Lokesh Jindal, can this letter of Pandit Nehru, written over 100 years ago, be rubbished completely? Because there are some facts that he refers to which has direct implication to what's been going on in Sambhal. About whether we're talking about the temple, which was converted into a mosque, whether we're talking about the situation of violence on ground, where he said it's one community that in fact is the aggressor and Hindus are at the receiving end. Lokesh Jindal.
Yes, good evening, everybody. The letter was written in context to the Hindu-Muslim riots that country faced after the withdrawal of non-cooperation movement in 1922. So in the entire decade of 1920s was characterized by intense form of riots all over the country. But then this did not bring about any major rift between the Hindus and Muslims, as was shown in the electoral outcomes in 1937. If you look at United Provinces in 1937, the Congress won 133 seats and Muslim League only won about 26 seats. So, trying to portray that these tensions were always prevalent and these always continued after independence. We have had successive governments who had established law and order in these regions. There are certain points which are, I would say, there are fractured points here where there could be some instances of sectoral and communal violences. But I would say this has mostly been exploited by political parties so as to gain political foothold. I do not see these tensions as natural and something which will exist forever. Given a sound policy and a sound administrative
framework. Sir, they have existed for 100 years and you're saying they won't exist forever.
They have existed only when there have been necessary and sufficient conditions that have led to these tensions.
What are these necessary and sufficient conditions?
When we talk about ideology,
and you're actually saying there are necessary conditions for communal violence to take place.
Yes.
What is necessary about that?
When we talk about certain forms of inflamed passions that are being promoted, fueling of discontent amongst communities, trying to highlight.
So who was fueling this discontent amongst Hindus 100 years ago? There was certainly no BJP, there was certainly no RSS at that point of time. Who was doing so?
In 1920s, the Mopla riots that occurred in South India and subsequently all over the country, there were fueling of communal sentiments that had led to riots.
You're saying the 1924 Sambhal riots were because of Mopla riots in Kerala?
The 1924 Sambhal riots were one of the expressions of Hindu-Muslim discontent which the country faced in 1920s, which was the outcome of the British policy of divide and rule.
Let me bring in Sushil Pandit on that. Sushil Pandit, I want you to respond to him because Lokesh Jindal, from saying that there is absolutely no reason for it, there is reason, the political reasons perhaps for people to exacerbate communal violence, to linking it to Mopla riots has gone all over the country, but has not been able to explain what was happening there in Sambhal 100 years ago. Can this letter of Jawaharlal Nehru be wished away? Sushil Pandit.
Madhav, thank you for doing this show. And yes, thank you, Madhav, for having me on this show, doing this show, and bringing to the fore Jawaharlal Nehru's himself finding good 100 years back. The problem is Congress is obsessed with, despite paying a huge political price, is still obsessed with appeasement politics, is still obsessed with its anti-Hindu agenda. It is still obsessed with hypocrisy. It is still obsessed with saving the culprits at the cost of justice to the victims. Just because it is steeped in identity politics. It cannot see the truth, it cannot stomach the truth, it has to prevaricate. Now Jawaharlal Nehru himself finds that in Sambhal you have Muslims playing the aggressor. You have Hindus who are perpetually victims. It is Hindus who suffer the blows, who suffer the injuries. It is Muslims who are left unscathed. It is one-sided violence. This is what Nehru himself has found. He himself says that Hindus are aggrieved because their places of worship have been encroached upon. Even then, you are today inventing, you see Congress inventing all kinds of reasons and pretexts to justify it, to rationalize it, not to address it, not to deliver justice, not to offer some succor to the victims, but to safeguard, to protect, to argue for the Muslims, for the aggressors, for the rioters. You know, any reasonable political party would look at its long-term interest. But Congress today is completely beholden to a suicidal path from top to bottom.
Right.
And people are watching this. People will know that this kind of argument is going to wipe them out from a state which has already rejected them so many times over in the last 40 years.
Let me bring in Tariq Khan. Let me bring in Tariq Khan of the Samajwadi Party. Tariq Khan.
Themselves from the political
Yeah,
map of India.
yeah. Allow me to come in now. I just want to read out a portion of Nehru's letter. Just one sentence, Tariq Khan. Nehru wrote that owing to their large majority in the town and neighborhood and for other reasons, Muslims have all along been top dogs in Sambhal. He has also gone on to talk about who's responsible for the violence, etc. You may have read those parts of the letter. But the current context where we are seeing the ASI team, which in its earlier August visit to Sambhal, says that they are being physically stopped from even accessing the Jama Masjid. So are things really the same 100 years later is the question that arises.
I'm a bit confused today. I have seen right-wingers, BJP, let it be RSS, all have been saying since last 100 years that Gandhi Ji and Nehru and all these people, especially Nehru, was pro-Muslim. Okay. So today I'm confused that according to this report, he was pro-Hindu. According to that report. So today, all these right-winger will today accept that he wasn't
I am not going to intervene because how can I intervene against Muslims?
No. Let me complete. No.
Nehru in
all the things since last
because I cannot intervene
2014,
against
I have
Muslims.
seen, this is not fair. Speak on your time. I have seen Narendra Modi,
Tariq Khan, conclude your point.
From BJP. Everybody. Means I'm just not able to understand that whether Nehru is pro-Muslim according to BJP or the right-wingers. Just I want explanation from them, not from you, that Nehruji, according to their claim, according to the right-wingers' claim, Nehruji was a pro-Muslim. All the action they have taken was against the reservation. He was against the reservation. He was against the Hindu. They have been trying to prove this, that Congress and Nehru was against Hindu.
Okay, quick response. Okay, I got your question. I want Sushil Pandit quickly respond to that before I go across to the BJP spokesperson. Sushil Pandit, very quickly. All along we are trashing Nehru. The BJP, the right wing trashes Nehru, and today suddenly you're quoting him. That's the point he's making. Please respond.
Of course Nehru was pro-Muslim even after finding out the truth, even after recording that truth that Hindus are the victims and Muslims are aggressors. He refuses to intervene. He says, on whose behalf do I intervene? How can I intervene on behalf of Hindus against Muslims? So he refuses to intervene. This is what proves that he was against Hindus and he was pro-Muslims. He had a bias. He had a prejudice. Of course, this report also proves, because in the end he concludes, how can I intervene in this dispute?
Respond to that, Tariq Khan. He says that if Hindus are the victims of this violence, why didn't he speak up for them? If they are indeed the victims of the violence, he should have spoken.
We wasn't there at that time. हम लोग तब नहीं थे. But what, according to that report, which is being read by you, it simply means that he was saying that
not read by me. One second. Let me correct you there. Mr. Tariq Khan, you can respond. Let me just tell you, this letter is available online. Anybody can go and access this letter online. It is as far as, Jawaharlal Nehru's archives are concerned. The entire communication is online. Any person with an internet connection can access this. Even you can. You can read up the rest of the letter if you believe it's a top secret document, Mr. Tariq Khan.
Letter means whether I just want to know whether even though he's saying that the victim was Hindus, he was being killed or brutalized on that period of time. Even though he was not a pro-Hindu, I'm not able to understand what scenario these people want to make. What you are saying, he has written in that report that victims was Hindu, or that might have happened at that period of time. But today, will BJP accept, or the right-wingers will accept that he was pro-Hindu? Or you will still say that he is a pro-Muslim?
Sharath Trivedi, please respond. Please respond.
Madhav, this letter was written 1 year before RSS came into existence and 25 years before independence or the existence of Bharatiya Janata Sangh. So at this time, Nehru was still trying to act impartial. He was still called a spade. We agree with that. But in the conclusion, he has also said in this letter, the same very letter, he has said that why should Hindus support me? And why should Muslims support me anyway? So he was trying to play the game on both sides. And this is also about, around about 90 years before the advent of Osama bin Laden G and Hafiz Sahab, and the fact that the Muslims have got the first right on Indian resources. So this was the advent of the start of the so-called secularism that the Congress professes, and the rest of the parties also. But at least at this time, he was calling a spade a spade. He clearly said what had happened. He clearly said that Hindus were the aggrieved party. So if you are pro-Hindu, or you don't have to be pro-Hindu in order to support the truth. If he said that Hindus were right, were the aggrieved party, and the Muslims were the people who attacked them, that does not mean that it is a Hindu versus Muslim. I said yesterday on your channel itself that in Jallianwala Bagh, we don't accuse that the Dyer or the governor of Punjab, the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab, who himself was also a Dyer. Both these people were supporting Christianity.
No, obviously, there are very, very serious questions that emerge out of Nehru's letter to Gandhi. Whichever side of the political divide one is, what this certainly has a lot of provocative food for thought, given the fact that there are very, very serious charges of what's been happening in that town of Sambhal over the past 100 years. We'll have to leave it there for the moment. Lokesh Jindal, as well as Tariq Khan, Sushil Pandit, Sharath Trivedi, I'd like to thank all four of you gentlemen for joining us on the debate this evening.